In 2025, the average person procrastinates for over 2 hours a day. That's 60 hours a month. That's an entire month every year, lost to avoidance. But here's the most important thing. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just stuck in a loop you can't see. A mental loop. One that starts with a whisper in your mind. I'll do it later. It's not urgent. I just need to feel ready. And ends with guilt, shame, and more avoidance. But what if I told you that this loop is predictable, that it follows a clear neurological path, and most importantly, it can be broken? Today, I'll show you how. And it has nothing to do with motivation, or discipline, or willpower. Let's go back to the moment you were supposed to start something important. Maybe it was a task, a call, a message, a dream you've been sitting on for months. You knew it mattered. You felt the pressure. And still, you avoided it. You opened Instagram. You checked email. You made coffee. For the 4th time. And for a moment, you felt relief. That's the trap. Not the task itself, but what your brain has learned to associate with it. Because procrastination is not a time issue. It's an emotion regulation issue. Here's how the mental loop works. You feel the pressure of a task. That pressure triggers anxiety. Anxiety feels uncomfortable. Your brain seeks relief. Relief comes from escape. Escape becomes habit. Guilt follows. The cycle repeats. And the more times you complete the loop, the stronger it becomes. You don't even need the task anymore. Your brain becomes conditioned to respond to any discomfort with avoidance. Now here's the science. When your brain perceives a task as uncertain, effortful, or emotionally threatening, it activates the amygdala, your fear center. This sends a warning signal. Danger. Avoid this. Even if the danger is just writing an email. That warning leads to stress. Stress leads to dopamine seeking. And what gives you quick dopamine? TikTok, YouTube messages, food. Anything that pulls you away from the discomfort. But here's the twist. Your brain doesn't want the task to go away. It wants the feeling to go away. So procrastination becomes your coping strategy. Not against the task, but against the emotion attached to it. Fear, overwhelm, self-doubt, perfectionism. Even if the danger is just writing an email, that warning leads to stress. Stress leads to dopamine seeking. And what gives you quick dopamine? TikTok, YouTube messages, food daydreaming. Anything that pulls you away from the discomfort. But here's the twist. Your brain doesn't want the task to go away. It wants the feeling to go away. So procrastination becomes your coping strategy, not against the task, but against the emotion attached to it. Fear, overwhelm, self-doubt, perfectionism. The loop doesn't care what the task is. It only cares about escaping the feeling. That's why even small, simple tasks feel impossible. Because it's not about size. It's about how it feels inside you. Let's test this. Think of a task you've been avoiding. Now ask yourself, what emotion do I feel when I think about doing this? If it's fear, shame, pressure, or discomfort, then you've already started the loop. But now, you're aware of it. And awareness is where the power begins. Comment below. What is the one task you've been putting off? And how does it make you feel? Here's what makes this loop even more dangerous. It's not random. It's not weakness. It's neurochemistry. When you avoid a task, you feel relief. And that relief triggers dopamine. That's the same neurotransmitter your brain releases when you win, eat, laugh, or scroll. So guess what? Your brain starts to associate avoidance with reward. Every time you dodge a task, every time you postpone, every time you distract yourself, your brain reinforces a simple equation. Discomfort, avoid, relief, dopamine, repeat. That's why it feels almost automatic, like your body moves before your mind can stop it. And here's the kicker. The more you repeat this loop, the more efficient your brain gets at running it. It becomes a neural shortcut, like a well-worn path in the forest, so easy to follow that it feels inevitable. That's why willpower fails, because by the time you're aware you're procrastinating, the loop is already halfway through. You're already on your phone, already scrolling, already numbing the discomfort. Let me ask you, have you ever sat down to just check one thing, and suddenly an hour has passed? That's not a lack of discipline. That's your brain following the loop. Let's break it down visually. Gatillo, the thought of a task. Emoção, anxiety, fear, overwhelm. Fuga, distraction, anything that soothes the feeling. Alivio, immediate comfort. Recompensa, dopamine hit. N, reforço, brain tags avoidance as success. Cyclo, repeats. Next time discomfort arises. And here's where it gets even worse. The more you escape, the more your brain fears the task. Why? Because the task becomes associated with anxiety and failure. It's no longer just something you have to do. It's now something that makes you feel bad, so you avoid it even more. The fear grows, the loop tightens, and soon, even thinking about the task triggers panic. This is why we procrastinate on things that would only take 5 minutes, because it's never about the time. It's about the emotional weight we've attached to it through repeated avoidance. But here's the good news. If this loop can be built, it can also be broken. But not by trying harder. Not by yelling at yourself to be more productive. That only adds more shame, which reinforces the cycle. The first step is simple. Recognize the loop. Say it out loud. I'm not lazy. I'm not broken. I'm just stuck in a loop. That single shift in identity removes the shame. And when you remove shame, you weaken the loop. If this resonates, drop a breaking the loop in the comments below. Next, we'll talk about the one specific point where the loop is most vulnerable and how you can disrupt it, even after years of running it automatically. Now that you understand the loop, let me tell you the most important truth. The loop doesn't need to be conquered, it needs to be disrupted. And there's one specific point where it's most vulnerable. It's not when you're already scrolling, not when you've already lost an hour. It's before the escape, in that micro moment, right after the discomfort rises, and right before you act to avoid it. That space, even if it's just a second, is your window of power. Psychologists call this the pause. It's the tiny gap between stimulus and response. And within that gap is your chance to choose differently. Let me show you how to use it. The next time you feel that familiar discomfort, that urge to avoid, to postpone, to run, don't act immediately. Instead, 1. Pause. Take 1 slow, deep breath. 2. Name. Say out loud or silently, this is the loop. 3. Command. Choose a tiny action that moves you toward the task, not the whole task, not perfection. Just 1 micro movement. Like, open the document. Write 1 sentence, set a 2-minute timer, put on your shoes. Send the first word of that message. Why does this work? Because it shifts your brain from automatic avoidance to conscious engagement. You're breaking the pattern not with force, but with awareness. And every time you do this, you weaken the old loop and strengthen a new one. Think of it like building a new path in the forest. The first time, it feels unnatural, uncomfortable, like you're forcing it. But with each repetition, the path gets clearer, easier, automatic. Soon, your new loop looks like this. Discomfort, pause, tiny action, small win, dopamine, reinforcement, repeat. You're not eliminating dopamine, you're retraining it. You're teaching your brain that moving forward, is more rewarding than escaping. This is not about making huge leaps. It's about mastering the smallest possible unit of progress. Because progress, not perfection, is what breaks the loop. Let me ask you, what's one task you've been avoiding that you could take a 2-minute action toward today? Not finish, not perfect, just start. Drop it in the comments. Let's make it real. Comment, "I'm breaking my loop with," and share your action. In the next section, I'll show you how to take these micro actions and turn them into a new identity, so you stop seeing yourself as a procrastinator and start seeing yourself as someone who moves forward. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. To truly stop procrastinating, you need more than tools. You need a new identity, because the most powerful force in human behavior is the desire to stay consistent with who we believe we are. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm a procrastinator," "I'm always stuck," "I can't focus," then your brain will work to prove that true. But if you shift that narrative, even slightly, you start to change everything. Here's the new story. I'm someone who takes small actions, even when I don't feel like it. That's it. Not, I finish everything perfectly. But I take small steps. I break loops. I move forward. Every time you choose to pause, to breathe, to take one tiny action, you reinforce this new identity. You become someone who acts, not someone who avoids. And over time, this identity becomes automatic. The loop of avoidance weakens. The loop of action strengthens. This is not about never procrastinating again. That's impossible. We all procrastinate sometimes. But now, you know why. You know how the loop works. And most importantly, you know how to break it. So here's your challenge. Right after this video, pick one task you've been avoiding. Not a huge project, just one thing. Set a 2-minute timer and start. That's it. You don't need to finish it, just start it. Because starting is where the loop ends and a new identity begins. Comment below. The task I'm starting today is. Like this video if it helped you see procrastination differently. Subscribe to Just Habits for weekly videos on rewiring your mind, overcoming self-sabotage, and building unstoppable habits. Remember, you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just stuck in a loop. But now, you have the key. The choice is yours. This is Just Habits. One habit can change everything.